how you describe the death of former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Khalida Zia? What will be impact felt by Bangladeshi people on Bangladeshi politics?
The loss of Begum Zia, who had left her spell over the country, trying to make it a really an independent entity.
How important and how challenging it would be for Tariq Rahman, the new chairman of Bangladesh, this BNP, Bangladesh National Party, to overcome these challenges, restore the confidence of the youth? Will he be in a position to improve governance, combat corruption, and of course, end the Indian secret role in Bangladeshi politics and restore the merit on which the youth were quite upset?
The students' movement has been unique. As you know, it created a worldwide realization and it almost hit world headlines how the students' movement in Bangladesh was able to overthrow a fascist government. So when this particular students' generation continued in politics and finally decided to ally with the Jamaat-e-Islami, that has created a fascinating prospect for electoral challenge in the next 2 months. Today, this National Citizens Party, their main issue, number one, corruption, and number two, how to face the challenge of India. Right now, the million-dollar question is, can the students' movement equip the Jamaat with greater pragmatism? Can the student generation really succeed in creating a balance between the Jamaat's ritualistic approach and the modernized approach of the students' generation?
How important it would be and challenging it would be for new government, of course, after the February general election, to review Bangladesh ties with India.
The India card is going to play the most notable role. You see, the problem with India is that the Indian government, the BJP government, has failed to reach the sentiment of the people.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, Bangladeshi legendary politician, the lady who twice ruled Bangladesh, Begum Khalida Zia, died a day before. And in today's conversation, we will discuss what impact her death will be on Bangladeshi politics, on upcoming elections, and what political legacy she's leaving behind. Although her son, Mr. Tariq Rahman, has returned on 25th of December from London to be part of the upcoming elections. But suddenly, because of her death, situation has quite changed. In today's conversation, we will try to examine, analyze that what will be the impact of her death. Her party will be able to win upcoming elections of 2026. What will be the situation? If coming into power, what will be the policies of the new government vis-a-vis Bangladesh-India relations, dealing with entire South Asia? We are fortunate to have with us a senior political analyst, a former professor of international relations, Professor Dr. Shahiduzzaman in Dhaka. Professor Dr. Shahiduzzaman, sir, very warm welcome to Program Insight in V News English.
Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Shahid Saab, how you describe the death of former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Khalida Zia? What will be impact felt by Bangladeshi people on Bangladeshi politics at a time when Bangladesh has, over the last 1 year, has tremendously politically changed?
Thank you. Actually, Begum Khalida Zia had been sick for quite a long time. And it was a reality that she had almost departed from active politics. Her being alive had been like offering a big a tree's shadow to her party BNP. But then it was expected. What really happened too dramatically, though. I mean, within 2 or 3 days of the return of Tariq Zia, when it was hoped that she might improve a little, so the inevitable happened. It is all the wish of Almighty Allah. It had to be. But then it opens up the road for Tariq Zia to emerge as the unanimous choice to be the chairman of the BNP. With the return of Tariq Zia 2 or 3 days ago, it seemed that he had acquired the type of self confidence and certainty to stay in Bangladesh and to be the guardian of the BNP. Her mother's blessings were always with him, and he had seen her actually only for 2 nights at the end of the day's travels, like performing all the rituals of visiting the martyrs memorial, the meeting, the addressing the public meetings, and then visiting his father's grave. All of it indicated that he was enjoying a fabulous popularity in Bangladesh. He spoke with a language of confidence, unlike any time in the past when he was away in England. His body language displayed a firm maturity. His use of words during the last 2 or 3 days was full of restraint, self confidence, and an approach of optimism where there was no display of any hatred or any sort of uneasiness in terms of his goals. He spoke to the people with a program. He told them, quoting Martin Luther King, that he had a plan and he knew what he was up to. In fact, the last 2 or 3 days really made the Bangladeshi people appear that they had finally been able to fill up a vacuum, the vacuum of future leadership, the prospect of future prime ministership of the country. And the way he conducted himself and the way, thousands, lakhs of people filled up all the venues where he went in the last 2, 3 days. It appeared to me that he would be conducting a lot of his own initiatives, and that the BNP would emerge as a party of his way of looking at both domestic politics and international politics. So I am excited. Of course, it is very sad to recollect the loss of Begum Zia, who had left her spell over the country, trying to make it a really an independent entity. Tariq Zia, would probably follow the trial of his mother, and at the same time be loyal to the dreams of his father, President Zia. It would mean that in the future days, it would be a time of reckoning. When he came to Dhaka during the last 2 days, he was all full of smiles, confidence, patting the back of his supporters. But today, he looked a very different person. It seems that the parting of his mother would make him look at politics in a much more straightforward and serious manner, where he won't have much time for cordialities or formalities or sorts of, he wouldn't probably show any patience with those who seem to be deviant from his way of thinking. I'm hoping that as the time passes by, the next few days would see him address the electoral issues with a lot of fortitude. His experience of 17 years of exile in England has probably fortified him in a manner where he has gone through the worst of expectations in politics, and yet out of that experience, he has emerged as a solid realist figure. I don't think he has any false reckonings or any expectation, because he knows very well that while he has to handle a party which is diverse, which has very elderly people at the helm, and there are a lot of controversies about the characteristics of these elderly people. If I may be perhaps more frank with you, the Tariq Zia would have to deal with balancing the elderly old guard of his mother's generation vis-a-vis the middle-aged and the large body of loyalists, youth. On the one hand, these elderly, a group that he has to deal with in a very tactful manner, they constitute the ones who had undergone a sort of psychological pers- personality transformation during the Hasina years, where they thought, as many of the older people do at times, that Hasina would continue to stay forever, or that she would survive for another 10 or 20 years. And these older people are suspected to have come to some sort of an understanding with Indian leadership that they would make the BNP bend more towards a prospect of compromise with India. This perception of this older generation leaders of about maybe 10 to 15 people who are very powerful and who surround and give leadership to the BNP have created huge criticism, cynicism, not only within the party, but also among the people of the country. It has been absolutely a very, very lively and at the same time controversial perception that these group of elderlies who are almost all over the age group of 75, these people had come to treat India with a sense of accommodation. And that has been creating a very repulsive impact on the large mainstream party. Because, as you know, we had always believed that this was the party of President Ziaur Rahman, who had always maintained a policy of sharp sense of independence, close proximity with China and Pakistan, close proximity with the Western world. I still remember the times when I used to brief President Ziaur Rahman on foreign policy issues. Sometimes in the evening, when you would brief him, he would receive a telephone call directly from President Ziaul Haq. And then, as his military secretary would come and whisper into his ears, "Sir, you have a call from the President of Pakistan," he would ask us to go to the next room, and he would always inevitably spend between 15 to 20 or even 40 minutes talking personally with President Ziaul Haq. That was the type of direct understanding President Zia had with a head of the government, like in Pakistan. So we can imagine that given that tendency, the approach of these elderly leaders now trying to make an accommodation with India has never been very well received or very much entertained. So, in the next month or two, uh, Tariq Zia has to realize and has to remember that the very mood of the people, the electoral verdict, would inevitably rotate around the degree of ability to confront the impositions by India. As you know, during the time of Sheikh Hasina, she had signed a lot of unequal agreements, and many of them are secret agreements, where she compromised Bangladesh's interest to such a level that the Indians have come to treat Sheikh Hasina as their sole choice to continue, even with fraudulent elections. This is an area which I think the people have rejected vigorously. And most people who are patriotic in this country have never forgiven India for destroying our political institutions. This is something
Professor,
which
okay,
Tariq
that's
Zia.
okay. Professor Shahid Saab, an important thing. Last year, you also participated in our program when the students' movement was at peak, and finally it led to the ouster of the then Prime Minister Hasina Wajid from power. So, students, mainly the youth of Bangladesh, they were quite upset over corruption, over bad governance, and over the compromising of merit. And last, but on the top of it, as you indicated also, the massive Indian interference into the Bangladeshi affair. How important and how challenging it would be for Tariq Rahman, the new chairman of Bangladesh, this BNP, Bangladesh National Party, to overcome these challenges, restore the confidence of the youth? Will he be in a position to improve governance, combat corruption, and of course, end the Indian secret role in Bangladeshi politics and restore the merit on which the youth were quite upset?
This is a fascinating subject which you have raised. I was hoping that I would be
Thank
able
you
to
so
talk
much.
on it. The students' movement has been unique. As you know, it created a worldwide realization and it almost hit world headlines how the students' movement in Bangladesh was able to overthrow a fascist government. Now, this student movement emerged into a political party. And fortunately, this student movement, the National Citizens Party, as it's called, they have a leadership based not just on political slogans, but rather on merit. This political party, the students' movement, has managed to survive over the last 1.5 years, despite the predictions that it would wither away. But then these were the younger generation who came out of the universities, not the ones slogan mongering, followers of the large political parties, but these were the students who were extremely independent minded, were very meritorious. This is the thing, especially the female leadership. The female leadership of the National Citizens Movement emerged in a unique manner. One of the top leaders was a doctor from Oxford University who was serving there and who took leave from Oxford to come back and join politics. Now, what really amazes the future politics of Bangladesh is that the students' movement party has finally ended up with an alliance with the Jamaat-e Islami. You know, this is, as you know, in Pakistan, the Jamaat-e Islami is not one of the leading political parties. But in Bangladesh too, it used to hardly receive 10 to 15% of the votes. But right now, over the last 1.5 years, it is the students' movement who has recognized the basic utility of Jamaat-e Islami as a party whose students' cadre swept the elections at the universities. all the top public universities, the Chhatro Shibir, the student wing of the Jamaat, they came to power, they were elected by the younger generation. So the younger generation completely changed the political verdict of the future Bangladesh. It indicated that whereas Jamaat was sort of always treated as an enemy of Bangladesh independence, but the very fact that the younger generation voted for them into power and they have been doing so well, looking after welfare issues, looking after corruption issues, raising the question of future change in political culture. It was all futuristic. So when this particular students' generation continued in politics and finally decided to ally with the Jamaat-e Islami, that has created a fascinating prospect for electoral challenge in the next 2 months, because
This
you see all the
you're talking about National Citizens Party and Jamaat Islami. Both are
and
both parties. Okay,
exactly. Exactly. The National Citizens Party is the party of the students,
students exactly.
or what you call the students who have graduated from the universities. Now, what has happened is that they have been participating in all sorts of debates on television. They have been participating in national forums. They have been conducting political rallies, and they're because of the fact that they are not the run of the mill followers of political parties, but rather they are independent minded graduates of the university. Their perception of picking up the nitty gritty, the inside stories in politics was very fast. And today, this National Citizens Party, their main issue is just really two issues. Number one, corruption, how to fight corruption, how to fight the traditional political, culture of making wealth and money, and number two, how to face the challenge of India. So in these two sectors, these students' political party, they found that the Jamaat-e Islami came closest to reality. The conduct of the Jamaati leaders and the Jamaati students wing has been totally, one may say with confidence, corruption free. Most people in the country, especially the large segments of ordinary people, people who work and earn their meals every day, they have been wholeheartedly trustworthy of Jamaat as the party which will not indulge in corruption and also being a party which deserves a chance to run the country. Now, with this Jamaat, when this students' party have joined together and they have decided to share the seats in the future parliament, many interesting, very important leaders of Jamaat have given way to accommodate the student leaders, the younger generation. It really created an image of the Jamaat as a future loving party. Suddenly, although the Jamaat has remained committed that if it came to power, it would introduce Sharia as the law of the country, and although they have abided by the strictures in Islam that women should not be directly involved in certain leadership positions, they have even stood by their earlier stand that they would prefer the religious approach to politics. But what has impressed the younger generation is the loyalty of the Jamaat towards a corruption free political culture. On the other hand, although the BNP is highly organized and highly motivated, and despite 17 years of suffering in the hands of Awami League, the BNP has shown the numbers, because in the last 3 days we have seen what a massive turnout the BNP can create. So although the BNP is considered the favorite to win the elections, but you never know, because there is something called the tidal wave, the tidal wave, and the people who have not been able to vote during the last three elections are far more conscious. The most important aspect of what would make the elections very challenging is the prospect that women voters who have been denied voting for the last 16 years are more likely to turn out in huge numbers. In fact, it is anticipated that 90% of female voters all over the country, you talk of remote villages, you talk of the countryside and urban poor, most women are absolutely conscious. If you ask any single working woman, if she's a daily laborer or even a maid servant in a house, or someone in the village who happens to be in the parda system, she would say that, look, I'm going to vote. Well, who are you going to vote? Well, I'm going to vote for my religion. I'm going to for a religious based society. I believe in the afterworld. I will vote for a future where we have a honest life, where we can have a secure afterworld. This is the standard answer of millions of women because the Jamaat Islami has successfully penetrated into the rural households. Jamaat supporter women have been going to a nook and corner of the country. So our next elections are going to be very, very mysterious and mystifying. The standard perception is that BNP might win 60% vote, that BNP will easily sweep. But then if you look below the surface, if you consider talking with individuals, even if you look at the forecast which has been made by the American National Republican Institute, which is a very reliable think tank, they have made a forecast after a very thorough scientific study in Bangladesh that the BNP and Jamaat Islami would run neck to neck, and it would be a 5% margin of error where it will change. So, right now, the $1 million question is, can the students' movement equip the Jamaat with greater pragmatism? Can the student generation really succeed in creating a balance between the Jamaat's ritualistic approach and the modernized approach of the students' generation? There is one thing I must point out, Jamaat has a huge reservoir of silent voters among the highly educated. At the universities, especially at the technical universities like the engineering universities and the medical colleges and the general universities, most of the students, most of the faculty, they have been silently supporting Jamaat. They are people who for 16 years have seen the corruption and the hypocrisy of the Awami League, and they had turned it towards religion. And if you talk to many of the technical experts in the country who do not indulge in politics, you can talk to them and see inevitably they would like to see a religious biased political party like the Jamaat please have a test of power. So you have religion on the one side, and on the other hand, you have the BNP's pragmatism, modern perception of change that Tariq Zia represents. And
coming to the second point that you highlighted, the India factor, how important it would be and challenging it would be for new government, of course, after the February general election, to review Bangladesh ties with India, number one. And number two, usually whenever there are elections in India, there is always, we are talking from Pakistani context, there is always a Pakistani card. So in Bangladeshi election campaign, which is definitely underway, Do you think this India card will also be an important factor? As you mentioned, Jamaat Islami, BNP, and this student party doesn't want Indian role in Bangladeshi politics. So there will be an Indian card in Bangladeshi election campaign, that no to Indian role in Bangladeshi national affairs.
Absolutely, my dear friend. The India card is going to play the most notable role. You see, the problem with India is that the Indian government, the BJP government, has failed to reach the sentiment of the people. The Indian government, after the defeat of the Awami League, should have extended a hand of friendship, should have extended a sense of realization to the people of Bangladesh that they regret what has happened and they would like to be friendly to with the new future government. Instead, the Indians have shown extreme hatred towards Bangladesh's attitude of the people of Bangladesh in kicking out Hasina. The death sentence which has been awarded has made the Indian government even more alienated. So, what the Indians have been doing, one of the worst things that they could have ever done is to work out conspiracy theories of taking over parts of Bangladesh territory for the sake of their future strategic build-up and the security of their northeast. In recent times, as Bangladeshi government, the Yunus government, has developed very deep security ties with Pakistan and also with China, and as we have been buying military hardware from Turkey, the very approach towards a security ties with Pakistan have alienated the Indians so ferociously that this has become a major issue for people in Bangladesh. It is, if you look at some of the social forums in Bangladesh, if you see the literature, the major subject of speech, it is simply dominated by the question of how India will be dealt with. I do not see any normalization of relations with India. As you know, both the countries have absolutely stopped any visa services unless it is essential, like medical visa. But the more important aspect is that for the first time, Bangladesh, yesterday, the Foreign Ministry of Bangladesh has criticized the Indian government for its treatment towards the Christians. The Bangladesh Foreign Office has pointed out that Bangladesh is alarmed and concerned by the way the Indian government, the Indians have been mistreating the Christian population in India, and would urge upon India to stop this process of breaking Christian worship houses and of imposing the Hindutva idea, which is now a follow-up of what they have been doing to the Muslims. So this shows that we are directly on a path of confrontation towards India, and there is no way. Today, the Indian Foreign Minister visited Dhaka to pay his homage to Tariq Zia at the death of Khalida Zia. It did not even last more than an hour. He stopped by at the airport. The visit was not something expected. It was really sudden. But he came to Dhaka. He went straight to meet with Tariq Zia, conveyed his the condolences, and then straight away left, went to the airport, took his plane. It was
without any
an
further
Indian Air
meeting.
Force plane.
Without any further meeting, I would like to seek your very quick and short opinion about recently Usman Hadi, young student leader, was shot down. And it is reported and it is strongly believed that killers who carried out this assassination with the Indian support, and finally they fled away to India. How this factor will be affecting upcoming election? We are running short of time, so keep the answer short and to the point.
yeah.
Killing of Usman Hadi by the Indian supported killer.
Yes, the killing of Usman Hadi has clearly indicated that the planning was done in in coordination with Indian money, and that this Usman Hadi escaped to India. It's also been pointed out that where he is located, he was received in India. So the Indians have now resorted to terrorism, terrorist practice. It appears that the killing of Usman Hadi might be followed by other Indian killings. A retired Indian colonel has even said on television that the next target should be shot below the neck to ensure immediate death. This is absolute cynicism. It is shocking to see how India has decided that it is openly involved in terrorist activity. It is a case of state terrorism. And unless the Indians really change their attitude and the way their generals, strategists, the way they look at Bangladesh in terms of their territorial invasion plans, we are out for a very serious disruption of relationship with India.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Shahiduzzaman, international relations and political expert analyst, speaking all the way from Dhaka, participating in our program Insight at V News English, and sharing your insightful thoughts on the legacy Khalda Zia is leaving behind her death. And dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.